Hello everyone, and thanks for joining me for another episode, first one of 2025. Thanks for coming back and checking this out. Today we're working on a 1982 Gibson ES-335 DOT. There we go, look at this. So this is the guitar. It's had a bit of a hammering, 42 years old. Check out this thing. I mean, this is a real piece of Kalamazoo history. I'm just going to work through this inspection certificate. Every guitar that I work on gets one of these. Today we're going to be changing out the pots. We are going to be changing out the jack, changing out the three-way toggle switch as well. So a whole rewire essentially. We're going to make a new wiring harness. I'm going to show you how to make a template. I'm just going to do it on some cardboard today because I haven't got any thin enough ply in here. So I've got some others for a Les Paul and SG and stuff, but I thought it'd be cool to just sort of show you how I make the tracing. Then we'll sort of build it off plan and then install it. 5/16 inch nut on the truss rod. It seems to be doing what it needs to do. A little bit of a bow, but to be expected on a guitar this old. But yeah, it seems to be working. It's moving left and right, so that's really good. The frets on these are really low. These sort of early 80s Gibsons are very typical of having quite low fret wire and quite a thin sort of 60s style neck, so it plays really nicely. Everything's kind of super low. Being up and down with the fret rocker, a couple of sort of spots where it's just a little bit too high, but for the most part it's okay. Everything seems to be moving on the bridge saddles, so they're sort of moving where we need them to be. Both the pickups are working. We'll be taking all of the guts out of here, taking the pickups out. These are the infamous Tim Shaw pickups, which are very sort of highly sought after. The body's made up of, I've got my notes here, laminated maple for the top, back and sides, mahogany neck, rosewood fretboard, and as I say, the Tim Shaw infamous pickups. So we want to retain as much of that character as we can, and changing out things, certainly changing out tone pots and capacitors and stuff is going to have some kind of impact. You might like it, you might not, who knows. These pots in particular are 300k, and the owner Matt wanted to change these out for 550s that have a 9% tolerance, really high quality. So we're going to bang 4 of those in with some new orange drop capacitors. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to put the guitar away now and show you the tools, so bear with me. We've got a multimeter, we've got 2 pairs small and medium sized Lindstrom snips, a nice sharp knife. These are the sort of pet toenail clippers that I like to use for trimming wires, just got a nice circular cut on it. We've got a radius gauge, we've got a truss rod adjustment tool, a PH1 Phillips screwdriver, a couple of cool little bits. This is a Jack the Gripper StewMac tool, which is super nice for tightening up output jacks. This is for tightening up toggle switches. We've got a nice string winder, this little StewMac multi-tool kit, some snips, some nut drivers, some masking tape. So they're kind of all the normal things. We're going to be using probably a fret guard, the Music No More fret guard, when we do come to do the frets. So parts, let's talk about parts. We've got some NYXL 10-52s, really nice guitar strings, 10-52, nice and thick on the bottom, in E standard tuning this. We have some new Grover 102 CVs, nickel, milk bottle top tuners. Really nice upgrade to the ones that he's got at the moment. They're pretty knackered, to be honest. A couple of the gears on some of them are really sort of beyond repair, so we're just going to change them out for some new ones. We've got 4 CTS pots here, brand new 550s. We've got 2 orange drop capacitors at 0.22 and a switchcraft output jack. That's it in terms of the hardware parts. And then a couple of things to show you that I'd use to make this a bit easier is this stuff. It's called surgical tubing. Got some at 10mm and some at 8mm, and this will kind of come clear later on, but basically it makes it easier to pull the pots through when you're working on a 335, because obviously at the back it doesn't have a plate that you can take off, so you have to go through the F-hole in the front. So I'm going to show you how I do that. So to keep tidy while I'm going, I just put all my parts in this little parts bin, just to keep everything in its own place, and then when we're taking stuff off the guitar, kind of keeps it all nice in there. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to show you is this. So in an ideal world, I would be using 3mm thick plywood and make a template much like these ones. This is a golden axe one. I'd like to make one of these for the 335, but I don't have any wood here at the moment. I really wanted to make this video today. So I've got a fresh piece of cardboard, and some greaseproof paper. And in some ways this is, you know, cooler because it's something that everyone's got around the house. And then just a nice sharp pencil. So that's what we're going to be using to make out our template. So let's get straight into the guitar and go from there. First things first, let's get this neck straight and just make sure that it's going to sit where we need it to. So as I'm looking down, there's a little bit of a kink in the neck where the neck meets the body, which is sort of very common of guitars like this. So I'm just going to start by making a little adjustment and just kind of see how the neck reacts to it, and we'll just see what the relief looks like after the fact. Let's see what I'm doing with a truss rod. So there's actually a kink just around here, so if we always sort of go for a loosen before you go for a tighten. Generally you want to sort of back it off a bit and then go to put some pressure on it. You don't need to put on a lot, maybe about 1/8 of a turn, just to kind of see how the neck's reacting to it. That's pretty good. I think it could have a little bit more. But all we're really looking for at this point is that the neck's doing what we want it to do. It's nice and straight where it needs to be, and the frets are nice and level. That's all we're looking for at this stage. I like to do this while it's still got the strings on. When someone brings a guitar and it hasn't got strings on, it's really annoying because you really kind of need to do this at the start before you start doing anything else, because it kind of, if you've got a neck that isn't straight or you've got frets that are all over the place, you can do what you want everywhere else and it'll just play like a dog's dinner. So yeah, so the neck looks pretty good on this. I'm going to leave the truss rod cover off just to make things easier. So if we have a quick listen. Sharp. That one looks quite good. So that all kind of sounds okay. You can hear that crackling. Yeah. Lastly, before we take all the gubbins out of this, I'm just going to measure the resistance of the pickups, just because I'd quite like to know what they are anyway, and also to see if there is any difference when we switch back to these new pots. Switch to the new pots. We're not switching back to them. You can do this really simply with just a guitar jack. If you've got a multimeter, set it to ohms. I've got mine at 20k, and then we should have something probably between about 6 and 8, I reckon. 7.0. Just make sure that when you're doing this, the volume and the tone are turned up. So that's literally exactly 7.0, and that's on the bridge pickup. And then the neck, 7.15. Okay, that's just a nice thing to know, how hot the pickups are and if there's any difference when we switch things over, because we are going to be changing sort of small tolerances in resistance, I suppose. So I reckon we can start going to town on this. Just start by getting the strings off, give it a little bit of a clean. So we're going to be replacing the machine heads on this guitar. Snip these off. I hate it when people tie knots in these. You don't need to. Now I've got the strings off, I'm just going to have a look at this bridge. A bit more detail. And sometimes when you're looking at these, the radius here, sometimes these can sort of collapse in the middle and it creates a dip, and it basically affects the radius, and what you end up with is like something sort of really flat. It hasn't collapsed, which is good, but they are filed down quite low. This is the wrong way around as well. He did say he had to do that to get the intonation right. Yeah, I think we'll put this in the ultrasonic cleaner Right, I'm just going to take off this pick guard next. To keep these adjustment screws for the Tune-o-matic in place, I'm just going to get a little bit of tape, wrap it over. Right, let's take all these bits off then, shall we? I'm going to start with taking that off there, nice and tight in here. There we go. Just going to gently put this on. Twist it till she comes off. Take off the top hats. We've got these little pointers here as well. Now they've gone quite rusty. Let's just come off, look, with no effort at all. So let's get a nut driver. Okay, let's use Jack the Gripper. Thread on this feels like it's threaded, as in it's just kind of spinning around on itself. So I'm going to use this to remove it. There we go. Okay, she's out. There's a bit of messing about. Okay, so that entire wiring loom, just give that a bit of a clean. I think it's going to be even easier if let's just remove this bridge pickup. Okie doke, so I've got an access hole now. Right, I'm just going to write on this pot what it is. So that's the bridge volume. Okie dokes. So let's have a little listen. That's obviously the bridge tone. So switch to the neck pickup. It's going to tap it. Okay, so that's the volume, and this is the neck tone pot. We've identified what all the pots do, and we've also got a nice loom now in terms of copying things, because Matt wants to sort of retain the original sort of wiring as much as possible. We are obviously going to keep the same pickups and stuff, but I'm going to wire it exactly as it's wired in here. So we're just going to get rid of this bridge wire. That's this one here. We can worry about that later on. We'll just nip the edge off that so it's nice and neat. Okie dokie. We'll label the bridge. Now we are going to disconnect the pickup wires. I use a Weller PU81 if anyone is interested to know, and Autosol 1.2mm flux. Tried and true, works fantastically well. There we go. Lovely. As well as these parts. Try and keep things clean as we go. 42 years of rock and roll, baby. Neck pickup. Just zoom in, I guess, while we're doing this. Can hear it coming through my mic. God, that is seriously hot. So, we have a wiring loom. Out with the old, in with the new. before we pop this away, we just need to do a little bit of a tracing, and that's what we're going to use this for. So made our tracing. Now I'm just going to stick it down with some light masking tape. So I'm just going to start by running my fingers around it and then we're just going to mark the center, little fine point, so right in the middle of that. Move on there-ish. Okay, that'll do for now. And we'll just mark bridge volume, bridge tone. Split up as we go. Just be really careful as you're pulling it up. And there is our quite shoddy looking template, but I reckon that'll do the job. Right, that looks okay to me. So we get our lovely bit of cardboard. So I'm going to hold this in place so you can see a bit better. So we've got the template now on the greaseproof paper. Centers are marked out. It's now on a piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to go around with my Sharpie and just mark a little dot where those centers are. Now this isn't going to be mathematically perfect, but it's going to be close enough for what we're doing, and this is basically just going to making the wiring loom a wiring loom that we're going to have to drop into the guitar. It's not a standard one where you can do it from underneath. You've got to make sure that all the lengths are right and it's going to be dropped into the right place. So this, in my experience, is the best way to do it. As you can see, it's quite time consuming, but it saves you a lot of time later on. It's really hard to do this with gloves on. There we go. And then don't forget to label through the centers to give our drill bits something to lock into. Throw that away now. Yeah, so 10, 12. Let's just measure it against the actual parts that we're going to be fitting. Make sure they're the same, exactly the same. So we'll do them to 10 as well. So it's just a switch that's 12. Don't want these too tight on here, so you're sort of pulling the cardboard through, but it's kind of coming together, isn't it? Look at that. I'm quite impressed with that. Not bad for a bit of cardboard, is it? Now, obviously, it doesn't take this long every time, because once you've made a template, it's super easy, isn't it? It's ready to go. But I didn't have one for this guitar, and I just thought it might be handy to sort of show you how to do it. I'm sure there's different materials you can use. And we've all got a piece of cardboard knocking about the nose. How are you guys? Are you well? I hope so. I'm not addressing anyone specifically, just, you know, just know that I'm thinking about you, okay? And I appreciate that we're getting to hang out together like this. Probably cut that. If I was to cut everything that I cringed at, my videos would be about 20 seconds long. So, my wife has told me to embrace the cringe. Don't know, what do you think? What do you think? Come on, come to me. There you go. I've got these little nibs on. And it's so, yeah, if I put my snips on it. It's so that you can, if you've got a guitar that's got that little slot for that on the other side, it just sort of houses it a bit better. But most of the time, you're just gonna snip it off. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm also trying to swear less, because, you know, I want the young'uns to get into it too, you know? Flare-ups in traffic. All right, so that's it. Let's cut to this left camera. Yeah, so that's it. Nice little template made. We've got all our pots. And then now, we can wire up a sweet little wiring loom that is the perfect size. And then If you keep this cardboard nice and dry, last you bloody ages that, if you looked after it. So, on that note, I'm going to go and have some tea. So I'll be back in 3, 2, 1, back in the room. Full disclosure, I ate my tea, I fell asleep, and I woke up. It was about 11 o'clock. It's a new day. I've had my hair cut. It's actually a new 3 or 4 days. Fast forwarded, I kind of ran out of time. Wanted to come back into it fresh. So here we are. In the meantime, I ordered some wood as well. I'm a bit of a perfectionist and the cardboard was kind of annoying me. So I've transposed it onto this nice bit of 2mm plywood. You can buy a few sheets of these on Amazon for like 10 quid. I'll put a link below. So yeah, it's just a bit more solid, a bit more firm. And yeah, so that is the view from, if you were to look at the top of the guitar, looking down into it. So the switch would be here, your bridge and your neck volume, tone, output, etc. And then this is the reverse. This is how I personally like to set it up to wire it up, but of course there's no sort of set way. As long as you solder everything to the right spot and ground what needs to be grounded, you should be fine. So what we're going to do now is cut the lengths. So we've got the switch here, we've got the output, and we've got our 4 pots. They're labeled on the back here, and we're going to start with cutting 3 lengths of this braided. So this is the sort of braided Gibson style wire. You could use various different types of wire. You could just use a single core wire and then add grounding wires afterwards. This just kind of keeps things simple. You can buy this in various different lengths from various different places. I got this from Northwest Guitars, who are fantastic. We're going to need 3 lengths of this initially. So the longest one is going to be to the switch. I'm going to talk through how I'm going to wire it all shortly. And then this is going to be down here and then about there. I'm also going to leave a little bit of extra something on there, just because you don't want it to be so tight that you can't get the things where they need to be inside the guitar. Like we've said before, there's no cavity sort of access at the back, so you know, giving yourself a little bit of extra wiggle room is a good idea, because it just, you know, makes it a bit easier on the install. So this is our output wire then, just keep that there. Next is going to be the neck to switch braided, which is this one here. It's going to be quite small, and then we're going to terminate to about there. So that's our neck one. And then the last one is going to be the bridge, which is also the longest one because it's going to go all the way around here. So I like to have things kind of all going round the same way. So again, we want this to be neat and tidy, but in these gaps here, I'm going to leave just a little bit of slack rather than doing it super tight. It's just going to give it a bit of slack, just so we've got a little bit of wiggle room inside the guitar. That's going to go all the way there, round to the middle, and we can cut that off. So we've now got 3 lengths of wire. Just move the caps out the way. We've got sort of a large, a medium and a small piece. Why don't we write this down? That'd be handy. And then next time we come to make it, we'll know what lengths we need. I'll write these down below as well. So the neck wire is 11 centimeters. The output wire to the output jack is, we'll call that 25. That's my next door neighbour's garage door, you can hear. Haven't quite got the money for a fully soundproof room yet. One day though, one day. 36. And that is the bridge. I'll write these on there, so next time I can just go pop, 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 rather than having to measure them all individually. What else do we need? We need a ground wire. Now, this is just to ground the switch to the pots. This is just going to be a little guy. And this is just single core black braided wire. Got the wiring loom here, the old one as well, just for reference. Soldering iron. I'll call that 6. The next thing I'm going to do, now we've got all our wire, we've got all our bits, We're going to need some heat shrink on there as well, but we'll just sort of apply that and cut that as we go. Now what we need to do is prepare the pots and the switches, and by prepare I just mean we're going to tin what tags we're going to use and ground the pots that need grounding. I'm going to start here with the switch. So this is essentially the input for the neck pickup, this is the input for the bridge pickup, this is the ground connection, and then these are your output tags that go to the output jack. So essentially the pickups come into here, neck volume, bridge volume, go through the tone circuit and back, and go to the switch. But what we need to do with this switch, as you do most of the time, is we need to solder these together, and by doing that it means that when you move the switch it's going to change the pickups. If you don't do this, that's not going to happen. So I'm just bending these into each other just so they kind of make a rough mechanical connection before we get started. Big blob of solder on there. Lovely. These usually come as well, these two tags usually come quite in, and because of the sort of the thickness of the wires, I'm just going to kind of spread these out, and then we've got less chance of stuff touching each other. Now we're going to do the ground, and I'm going to put absolutely tons of solder on this. A little solder sucker. This is a really handy little tool for getting out unwanted solder. Heat it up, put it in there, bang. Wicked. Pots next then. We're going to need to bend this one back and ground it to the chassis. I like to just bend it back into position with some needle nose, big blob of solder. Make sure it's touching the casing of the pot. That's making a nice mechanical connection, and we're going to use both of the tags on the neck volume, so they'll get a bit of tin as well. Next we're moving on to the neck tone, bending in. Really push it in there. We'll put a blob here. This is for the pickup wire, the pickup ground. Nice big blob on the side of it, which is where our braided wire is going to attach to. Do one on the side of here too, one here. This will make sense when you see the wire going round. It just makes it nice and neat. Output, ground, live. This one is going to get bent back. Wonderful. Tone. Big blob for the incoming pickup. Bend this one back. The pickup in. Just to kind of simplify what we're looking at here, this tag on the bridge volume, so the bridge volume control, this is essentially the pickup input and that's the output. It's as simple as that. This is soldered back onto there, and then if you just think of it as an in and an out, you can wire it the opposite way around, but just kind of trying to explain it in simple terms. So always just kind of double check, triple check, make sure you've done everything correctly. I'm going to do the capacitors last. Let's start with the longest one. I'm just going to pull this back. This can be a bit fiddly when you're just getting the first little bit out. Good idea is just to kind of cut it fresh as well. Cut it in a nice straight line, and then you're just going to kind of eye up where you want it to be. You really need needle nose pliers for this, to be honest. It's quite fiddly without them, for me anyway. I'm going to tin this wire. I cut it down just a touch so it's nice and neat. I'm going to solder up the back of this wire, the braided bit, and just hold it there. So that's in position. We can now follow this round. So you've got some solder on both the pot and on the wire. That's attached. And then we're just going to need some heat shrink in between the two. And this is just to stop the wire touching anything that we don't want it to touch. Don't want it super tight like that. Kind of just going to give it a little bit of slack. And you solder on your wire. We can hear it cooking, look. And then going to kind of hold the wire. Do that at the same time. A little bit of a gap there. Oh, that looks nice, doesn't it? A little bit of slack, lovely. All right, going to continue going round. I'm going to need another piece of heat shrink. Sort of almost like pull it towards me as I'm doing this, so I'm not heating up the wire first, I'm heating up the pot. And I'm just pulling it back. Get my big head out the way. I'm pulling it there, and again, leaving just a little bit of flex in the middle. Just going to go round again. So we're going to want another blob there, I reckon. Before that, we need some heat shrink, of course. Perfect length. Look at that. Isn't it nice when a plane comes together? Beautiful. Okay, and that's going to solder to there. Before we do that though, I'm going to prep the rest of it, because if we solder that down, it just kind of makes it a bit harder to work with. So just double check our diagram out there, round there, going there, to the left. Okie dokes. So I'm going to wait till the other braided wires are in position, because we're going to need to join them together, and it's easier to do that afterwards. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to tin up this wire. I'm going to tin that. I'm going to attach this to the switch now. I like to generally do this on the outside rather than the inside, because then there's just less chance of it touching the ground. It just kind of keeps it out of the way. Let's get the other two bits in then. So the next one is going to be the neck, and this is one of the wires that we are going to solder together here. It will all make sense shortly. On the outside, sometimes you have to get yourself into some interesting positions. There we go. Oh yeah. So that's the neck switch wire hooked up. We need to do the last braided wire, which is for the output. So cool, okie dokes. So I'm just gonna do a little sneaky thing here, because I want to get these wires really tight and neat. I'm gonna zip them into place, solder them up. Suppose you could use a clip, couldn't you? But I don't know, I like doing it like this. But if you've got a better way, let me know how you guys do it, how y'all are doing it out there. Okay, so we're gonna join all these together. They're gonna be best buddies. Right, we can get rid of the zip tie now. Sort of like a suicide zip tie, innit? Only serve one purpose. Unlike the one at the back of the TV, which could be there for years, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm having a stroke. That's looking very nice. That's looking pretty tasty. To your new house, my friend. Have a nice deep bath in your new house. Push it back. Right, bridge wire. There she is, look. And there she blows to ground the switch to the pot. Some people like to put a wire from here onto there. So the original like Gibson wiring. So the ground wire here is just like a little wire going between there directly onto the braid, whereas I'm going to wire it straight onto the back of the pot. It's just a bit neater. Pull this back. This is solid core wire as well, which is all it really needs to be. Obviously braided works fine, but for a ground wire you just want a nice solid piece of metal. He's on there. Perfect. We're almost there. A little bit of heat shrink here. Give it a good twist. So it's actually right in the middle of it, touching both of them. Last piece of heat shrink for the braided wire. Again, we're going to do this on the outside rather than on the inside of the tag, just because obviously that's where the jack goes and you just kind of want everything out of the way. Just going to trim back this braiding. All right, that's looking pretty good, pretty neat. I'm just going to heat up the heat shrink. Okay, caps. Last bit of the puzzle. These are going to be mating up with the pickup inside the guitar. So when I put these in, I like to sort of bend it back on itself. So if it's not got any solder on it, it'll sort of stay where it is. It's not just going to drop down. I'm going to cut it a bit longer than I actually need it, to give us plenty of room to bend it back. That looks good. So just a little bit of heat shrink. You don't have to do this, to be honest, but it just makes it a lot neater. And then just really gently with the heat gun. Really don't want to overheat these things. I'm just going to duplicate this on the other capacitor. There you go. Well, you can kind of see it. Just makes it look a little neater. So it's time to finish this bad boy up. I've left this one a little bit longer than I need it, the one on the left hand side, just so we can bend it back on itself, so that when we come to wire the pickup in later, it's not going to drop through. This little extra bit here is going to bend back on itself, and that is just going to stop it from wiggling out, hopefully. I cut that a bit short, to be honest, but that can go straight in because that's nothing else required there. It's also quite long in the middle there, so if it needs that little bit of flex once it's inside, it's got it. If you're doing this in a Les Paul, I'd probably make them shorter and just like, you know, a bit neater. It's neat enough, isn't it? Pretty darn neat. I think I'm actually going to lean this the other way. This one's better, so it's longer. Pushed it all the way through there. I can just bend that tab back. Awesome. So that wiring loom is finished. Look at that. Bridge volume, bridge tone, and that bad boy is now ready to be dropped into the guitar. But before we do that, what do we need to do? What can you think we might possibly need to do? That's right, we need to test it. Because boy oh boy, do you not want to fit this in the guitar and then work out that it doesn't work? Man be crying. All right then, now we just need to test the pickup. Handily, we took the bridge pickup out earlier, so we can literally just drop this into position. We'll neaten up this wire later. All we're interested in at the moment is, does this work? Hey, I'm going to tap it and move the pot. So that's the volume, obviously, tone. Let's just check the switch is doing what it needs to, so that should be bridge. Perfect. Do the exact same thing on the neck circuit. Okay. Cool. Volume. Cool. Tone. Beautiful. Isn't it nice when stuff works first time, eh? Okay, here's the worst bit. Most challenging bit, definitely the most challenging. Getting this back inside the guitar. So, let's do it. Oh yeah, we just need to secure the washers. Now I'm just gonna secure these pot washers onto the back because obviously they jingle around and when you put them inside they can fall off. So I just literally put a tiny little drop. And again, I'd only really do this on a 335 or a guitar that you can't get to the back of. It's not really necessary to do this like in a Les Paul, for example. It just makes it a bit easier. And by pot washer, instead of just being like a regular washer that has like a smooth edge on it, this has got like a rough edge in the middle so that when you tighten it up into the guitar it sort of grips the underneath it. And again, that's especially handy to have on a guitar like this. I'm not going to solder that one on because I'm not 100% sure if that's going to be too thick to get through it. That's ready to install, I reckon. It's looking pretty damn nice. What's next then? Surgical tubing. Exciting stuff. All right then, let's see how we get on with this. I'm really nervous, I don't know why. I think it's because I've never recorded myself doing it before. So I'm just gonna offer these up. I'm not gonna physically put them on the guitar because it'll scratch it. But we're just having a little look-see. It's looking pretty good. Now I've got the ground wire and the neck pickup wire. I'm just gonna take the neck pickup out because I just don't want that wire in the way. Let's take him out. Just pop him down there. We're going to need to reconnect the bridge wire. Let's try and get this first item in. I hand a little jack tool and then I'm going to start feeding through some tubing. Now we might not need to do this for every pot. Let's just have a go. Big old blobby. Steady on, steady on. Send this boy home. Okay, bridge wire is in position. We can push that neck pickup that I took out back in now. There she is. Hello. Come on, my friend. This requires a lot of patience, which I don't have a lot of. Come on, mate. Another handy tool for another handy job. This is really quite frustrating. Ooh, you neck pickup, little bitch. I don't understand why it's not going in. I don't understand why it's not going in. It's a little bit bent, that's why. Just a little bendy. There she goes. New York City. Come on then, you frigger. Just created a load of extra work for myself taking that neck pickup out. In future, don't take out the neck pickup because it's a complete waste of time. This needs to be attached to its new house. She's gonna go in there. That is a solid connect. One last wire to go. This is the ground wire for the guitar. It grounds all the hardware on the front of the guitar to the pots on the back of the guitar. All right, and that's all I gotta say about that. Oh, just drop it on there. Oh, hello. What we're gonna do, we're gonna test it. Test it for fuck's sake. All these solder fumes are making me go crazy. Right. Oh, that's a good sign, isn't it? Bridge. Bridge. Neck. Yes! Right, disconnect. I'm going deeper underground. But I've got to go deeper. Down, but down, but down, down. Come on, mate. I want a bigger blobby. I want a much bigger blobby than the previous blobby. I think the soda fumes might be sending me crazy. Yeah. She's in, he's in, they're in. All the hims and all the hers and all the thems. Oh, that low end on that. And the old lapel. Oh, fucking love tools. I just love tools. I just love them. Right, tubing next. Wiggle tube to required location. Is it going to be fiddly? You bet ya. Is it going to irritate? You might do. Stay calm. Come on, give me a little wriggle. Wriggle towards me, please. Tubing in. gonna pop this over the top of that mark. Now, there's a bit of a technique with this. You have to sort of twist it over itself. I've got a feeling just one piece of this tubing is gonna be enough. Ambo, my guys, come on you frigger. Right, that is on there, really tight. We need to crack on now. Not that we've not been cracking like, but we need to turn it up a notch. This is it. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. Time for insertion. Stop it. We've got two little handles now, essentially. It's going to help us just guide this through. Just going to try and push from this side. Okay. You want to try and send this stuff down like flat as well. Like the pot's not like that, try and do it sort of sideways. You've just got to be really patient with this, and having these tools here just make it so much easier. Let's get that switched around that corner. Oh, that's gone in bloody lovely, that has. I am going to put just a little bit of Loctite on the inside of the nut, and this is just going to stop it coming loose. You can still take it off if you need to, but it just sort of stops itself from letting itself free, if you know what I mean. So now we're just going to drop this in. Lovely. I want this to be quite tight, but you've also got to be careful not to crack the lacquer. Okay, I think that's pretty nice. Right then, let's get these pots in, shall we? All right, the switch is good. Lovely. And again, we'll just pop a little bit of Loctite on it, just to keep it where we want it. Cool, so I've just dabbed a little bit of thread lock on that. Loctite, whatever you call it. Keep changing my name, don't I? There we go. I'm just not going to super tighten that yet. Just going to kind of eye up where it is. I prefer to have these like sort of pointing slightly away from you, so just kind of so it follows your natural sort of placement where your hand's going to go. Okay, last one. Get my soft pliers. They're all in rough position. I'm just going to screw the pickup back into place. Awesome. Okay, it's time for a test. Yeah, man. Right, we need to get these little pointers on, don't we? Because they look cute. I'm going to put them in the ultrasonic cleaner. Get a bit of that rust off. Another bloody glove's gone. Pot washers on the back, which should keep everything where we need it. You can see how that's just kind of off to an angle rather than straight down, because when you're playing it, I don't know, to me it just makes more sense like that rather than having to go like that. So I generally just sort of pivot them that way. So these are going to fit quite tightly on these, and we just need to just bend the nibs in just a little bit. If you are going to do this, just be really careful bending them in. It's really easy to snap them, and then you're having to take the whole thing apart and do that again. So I've just got a 0.65mm feeler gauge that'll just kind of pop in the middle, and then just bend it until it hits the metal. And that way you're not going to snap it off. Okay, they look nice and solid. Let's get these on. Try and line up the 10 with the pointer. Cool. Get the strings in. So we're using NYXL D'Addario 10-52s, skinny top, heavy bottom. If you are a Ernie Ball dude or dudette. Oh, they've got this lovely little baggy style thing now. That's nice. You don't have to rip them apart. Nice little detail. Well done, D'Addario. I'm just going to get the strings in the bridge. Off with their heads. I'm hoping these are just going to be like for like drop-ins. Oh, they're really tight on there. Let's turn her over. And yeah, they're literally a drop and go replacement. Amazing. Same company, just 43 years later. Let's take the rest of these screws out. Right, they're going in a bit loose, these. So I'm just going to fill with a little toothpick. All right then, beautiful. It's nice and firm there now. End of that toothpick's just giving it something to hold on to, and just keep repeating that. Certain machine heads will come with different length posts, so just make sure that the length of this bit, the post, is the same on all of them, because some of them are like staggered. These just need to be roughly in place. Obviously the nut at the front of it's going to be the thing that like secures it. Before we pop these back on. Clean down the sides of it as well. Could do with aging these a little bit. Just like a bit too shiny, aren't they? They're in. So just have a little bit of a clean up of this nut. Tiny bit of 220. Not really pushing down on it at all, just kind of letting gravity do its thing, just getting those little rough edges and those bits of crap out. Be really delicate with this. I'm just doing this now as I'm sort of renovating it, if you know what I mean. You wouldn't do this every time. And then we'll go for something a lot softer. It's a little 800 grit. Lovely. Start here with a 400. That edge. Then a bit of 6. Then a bit of 8. Then the pads. So 1500, 1800, 2400, 32, 36. 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 and 12,000. Lovely. So we're going to buff and polish the frets next. Most Gibsons have a scale of 24 3/4. Even when I'm using the fret shield, I still like to tape off the board, especially if it's got binding on it. It's just going to protect it, and it's also going to save you having to wipe a bit of compound off your binding. Music Nomad Freen fret polish, just a tiny little dab on each one. This is a little mix of lighter fluid and water. That's all you need, really. The lighter fluid just helps break down some stuff off the surface, gets it a little bit cleaner. that's come up quite nice. Just going to dry it all off, and then we're going to have a little bit of Monty's Guitars Instrument Food. I only started using this recently, but it's a really nice product. It's kind of an alternative to using lemon oil or whatever you use. He suggests you put quite a handsome helping on. The colour is kind of really nice. It sort of brings out like a rich colour, and it sort of seals it as well. We need to lubricate the nut slots, don't we? I've really enjoyed working on this guitar. Oh yeah, coming up a treat. Look at them shiners, look at that. Beautiful. I mean, this has taken hours, but it's absolutely worth it, isn't it? So, the old Tune-o-matic bridge, we had a look and made sure it wasn't collapsed in the middle, but all these screws were pretty dry and not really wanted to move. So I put them in the ultrasonic cleaner for about 10 minutes, and then I've sprayed it with some Ballistol lubricant. So I'll get it all together and see what's cracking. Personally, I like to have the posts all the way down to the body, just kind of maximum resonance. Sometimes you have to lift them up if you're getting like too much feedback. With it being a hollow body, it can cause a bit of feedback sometimes, but let's string her up, see what she sounds like. Quite excited actually. Knew I forgot something. Lubricant. Just tighten these up then. Over the top, under the bottom. I've left the truss rod cover off because we're probably going to have to make some adjustments. Also, the strings have been off this now for about 3 days or something. Snip her off. Over the top, under the bottom. Push it in, push it in. Push down, down, down. Last string. We're almost at the being able to sit down bit. How does the neck look?
The eternal question. How straight is your neck? A bit wobbly.
I think we need to have a little play. Right then, truss rod. It's felt like a proper mission, this, but it's also the most rewarding, isn't it? Something takes a really long time and put a lot of effort into it. You reap the rewards. Right, let's have a little play on that. Let's see how she plays. If you've come here to watch me play really good guitar, I'm afraid I can't. I can tell you, everything bloody works. Right, intonation, you frigger. Oh, goodness me. Feels nice to be doing this. Little bit flat, that's good because we've gone all the way we can the other way. -4. So if it's flat, it's going to go that way. If it's sharp, it's going to go that way. Still a bit flat. Still flat. That is perfect. Just a fraction sharp. So if it's sharp, we're going to go that way. You just follow the dots on your tuner. If it's sharp on the 12th fret and there's a dot on the right side, it needs to go right. If it's flat and there's a dot on the left side, it needs to go left. Just a little bit sharp again, tiny little extra bit. Just a fraction sharp again, +1. That's really sharp, +5. Quite a lot to the right. Oh yeah, man. These are all moving super smooth now as well, after putting that lubricant on it. Absolutely beautiful. This sounds great, it looks great. We've kind of retained as much of that original character as we can. We've got the neck nice and straight. This is a really handy point to look at the service certificate and just make sure I've done everything, because it is not uncommon to forget things sometimes. Using my lovely new pencil by my friend Jim. Fragile, thank you Jim. We did a tighty on the truss rod. Nut slots clean and lubricated, yes. The frets clean and polished, yes. Fretboard cleaned and wax. Action, radius, intonation set, yes. Pots cleaned and tightened, yes. Jacks, switches, pickup heights, yes. Truss rod cover, scratch plate, and we're good to go. Wunderbar. Just realised this entire time I've got my bloody Crocs on. It's not very professional, is it? Oh, cut that, boy. You know what I mean? Talk about balance. This guitar is absolutely beautiful. That's it, absolutely beautiful. I think we're done. So yeah, just need to stretch the strings on this bad boy and it'll be completely finished. So thanks for joining me for the ride. This has been really fun. Whole new wiring loom, we've made some jigs, we've changed some machine heads. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything that you want to know, like why did you do it like that or why didn't you do it like that, feel free to comment below. I'm happy for people to ask questions and I can answer where I can. Don't be a knobhead though. So anyway, this has been a Gibson ES-335 DOT 1982. Absolutely beautiful. We've restored it. It's back to its original glory. It's playing absolutely beautifully. Thank you for joining. Please like and subscribe and watch out for new videos soon. Thanks very much.